Listen, in the silence before catastrophe, there is always a clock. Its pendulum swings with the certainty of a world that believes tomorrow will resemble today. In the town of Wadowice, nestled in the foothills of southern Poland, such a clock marks time on the facade of the Basilica Minor. Its shadow creeps across ancient stone, measuring out the hours of a civilization that does not yet know it is living on borrowed time. This is where our story begins, not with armies or emperors, but with the heartbeat of a small town and a boy who would one day stand before billions. His name was Karol Wojtyła, and the 20th century was about to teach him everything about suffering, loss, and the indestructible nature of the human soul. Wadowice in the year 1920, a town of perhaps 10,000 souls, where church bells mark the passage of ordinary days and the scent of fresh bread drifts from bakeries on the main square. Here, on May 18th, in a modest apartment on Kościelna Street, a child enters the world. Karol Wojtyła, the son of a retired military officer and a schoolteacher whose gentle hands will guide him for only 9 brief years. The town itself is a tapestry of faiths, woven together by generations of coexistence. Catholics and Jews share these cobblestone streets, their children playing together in the shadow of the basilica. The Wojtyła apartment sits directly across from the synagogue, and young Karol grows up with the sound of both church bells and Hebrew prayers drifting through his windows. In the main square, boys gather for soccer matches that know no religious boundaries. Karol, whom friends call Lolik, is a goalkeeper of notable determination. His Jewish friend Jerzy Kluger kicks the ball toward him, and in that moment, they are simply boys. Simply friends, simply alive in a world that still makes sense. But death visits early. Karol is 8 years old when his mother, Emilia, succumbs to kidney failure and a heart condition. The boy learns to kneel beside an empty chair at dinner, to understand that love can be present even in absence. His father, a man of quiet military discipline and profound faith, becomes both parents. Together, they pray. Together, they endure. 3 years later, another blow. Edmund, his beloved older brother, a young doctor full of promise, contracts scarlet fever from a patient he refuses to abandon. He dies at 26. Karol is 11. In the span of 3 years, he has lost half his family. The remaining Wojty, as father and son, draw closer. Each evening, they kneel together in prayer. The father teaches the boy that suffering is not the absence of God, but perhaps his most demanding invitation. These are the lessons that will echo through decades, through trials not yet imagined. Meanwhile, life continues its deceptive normalcy. Karol excels in school, discovers a passion for theater and poetry, learns to speak with the precision and presence of a natural performer. He swims in the Skawa River during summer months, hikes in the Beskid Mountains, serves as an altar boy at morning mass. The sundial on the basilica continues its patient measurement of golden afternoons. Jewish merchants close their shops on Saturdays while Catholics attend Sunday services. The rhythm seems eternal, but across the border, in Germany, a different clock is ticking. A failed painter with a small mustache is gathering power. Speaking of racial purity and living space, the shadow of his ambition stretches eastward, though few in Wadowice can yet feel its chill. In 1938, Karol graduates from high school with highest honors. He and his father relocate to Krakow, where the young man enrolls at Jagiellonian University to study Polish philology. He joins a theater group, falls in love with language and performance, dreams of becoming an actor. The future seems bright with possibility. He is 18 years old. He has known grief, yes, but also joy. He has known the warmth of community, the comfort of faith, the excitement of intellectual discovery. He does not know that he has lived through the last peaceful summer of his youth. He does not know that the clock of Wadowice is about to stop. September 1st, 1939. Dawn breaks over Poland with the scream of Stuka dive bombers. The invasion begins without declaration, without warning, without mercy. In Krakow, Karol and his father wake to air raid sirens splitting the morning air. The sky fills with aircraft bearing black crosses. Explosions shake buildings that have stood for centuries. Within hours, the ordered world of their existence begins to crumble like ancient mortar. The young university student and his aging father join the exodus of refugees fleeing eastward, hoping to escape the advancing Wehrmacht. They walk for miles along roads, clogged with desperate humanity, with horse carts and automobiles. and families carrying whatever they could gather in the chaos. German aircraft strafe the refugee columns. Karol sees bodies in ditches, hears the cries of the wounded, watches his country die in real time. They reach the San River before learning that the escape is futile. Soviet forces have invaded from the east. Poland is caught between two predators, divided and devoured. Father and son turn back toward Kraków, walking through a landscape transformed by war. When they return, they find a city under occupation. German soldiers patrol streets where Karol once performed in student plays. Swastika banners hang from buildings where Polish flags flew just weeks before. The ancient Jagiellonian University, one of the oldest in Europe, is decapitated in a single act of cultural murder. On November 6th, the Nazis summon 184 professors to a supposed meeting. They are arrested, sent to concentration camps. Many will never return. The university is closed. Academic pursuit becomes a crime. Meanwhile, in Wadowice, the town of Karol's childhood undergoes its own dark transformation. The Germans rename it Wadowice, erasing even its Polish identity from official maps. The synagogue across from his childhood home is desecrated, then destroyed. His Jewish friends, the boys he played soccer with, the families who shared the main square during festivals, begin to disappear. First come the restrictions, yellow stars, curfews. Then come the roundups. Jerzy Kluger's family manages to flee, beginning a desperate odyssey that will scatter them across continents. Others are not so fortunate. The Jewish community of Wadowice, some 2,000 souls who had lived in this town for generations, is systematically erased, transported to ghettos, then to camps, then to ash. Karol watches neighbors he has known since childhood marched away at gunpoint. He sees the empty windows of abandoned shops, the silence where there was once laughter and prayer. He is 19 years old, and he is learning that evil is not an abstraction. It wears uniforms. It follows orders. It lives next door. In the basement of a Krakow apartment, he begins to understand that survival itself has become an act of resistance. But survival requires camouflage. And in occupied Poland, the camouflage of a young man means only one thing: labor. Worker number 773. This is what Karol Wojtyła becomes. A number on a list, a body for the German war machine, a unit of labor measured in quotas and survival. The alternative is deportation to the Reich, forced labor in German factories, or worse. To remain in Kraków, to stay near his aging father, to maintain any thread of his former life, he must work. The Zakrzewski limestone quarry becomes his purgatory. Imagine the scene: a vast open wound in the earth, white cliffs rising like the walls of a frozen hell, hundreds of workers, many of them former students and intellectuals, swing pickaxes and carry crushing loads of stone. The limestone dust coats everything. It fills lungs. It whitens hair. It settles on eyelashes until the workers look like ghosts haunting their own bodies. Karol descends into this pit each morning before dawn. The work is beyond brutal. He breaks rock with primitive tools, loads carts that seem designed to break human spines, breathes air thick with calcium particles that will follow survivors into old age. The temperature drops below freezing in winter. The dust burns exposed skin. The guards watch without mercy. Look at his hands, the hands that will one day bless millions, that will write encyclicals and wave from the Popo mobile window. In 1940, those hands are cracked and bleeding. Calluses thick as leather cannot protect against the limestone's abrasion. Blood mixes with white dust, creating a pink paste that dries in the creases of his palms. He becomes intimate with exhaustion in its purest form. The kind that makes bones ache with cold even in summer. The kind that turns sleep into a brief death, barely sufficient to face another day. The kind that strips away everything except the next breath, the next step, the next step, the next load of stone. Yet somehow, impossibly, he does not break. Fellow workers recall a young man who maintains an interior stillness even in chaos, who prays during brief rest periods, who shares his meager food rations, who speaks of hope when hope seems like a foreign language. After the quarry, he is transferred to the Solvay chemical plant. The work changes but does not improve. Now he carries buckets of liquid caustic soda, chemicals that burn through clothing and sear exposed flesh. The factory runs day and night, feeding the German war effort. and Karol works the most dangerous shifts to maintain his exemption from deportation. The boilers roar. The chemical stench pervades everything. Workers collapse from exhaustion and fumes. Some are carried out on stretchers. Some are not carried out at all. Karol endures. He learns to pace himself, to find moments of meditation amid the mechanical thunder, to retreat into an interior sanctuary that no occupier can reach. He begins to sense that this suffering is not meaningless, that it is somehow preparation, though for what he cannot yet see. In February of 1941, the final blow falls. Karol returns home from a night shift to find his father dead. A heart attack, alone in their cold apartment while his son labored in the chemical plant. Karol kneels beside the body for 12 hours, praying through the night. He is 20 years old. His mother is gone. His brother is gone. His father is gone. His country is enslaved. His friends have vanished into camps. He is utterly alone in the world. This is the moment that could shatter a man forever. Instead, something crystallizes. In the crucible of total loss, Karol Wojtyła discovers a calling that will define the rest of his extraordinary life. He decides to become a priest. 30 kilometers. That is the distance from Kraków to Auschwitz-Birkenau. 30 kilometers of Polish countryside, of farms and forests and small villages. 30 kilometers that might as well be 30 light years, for all the difference it makes to those behind the electrified fences. From certain vantage points around Kraków, on days when the wind blows from the southwest, you can see the smoke. Dark columns rising from chimneys that burn day and night. The locals know what those chimneys consume. They smell it on certain evenings, a sweetish, terrible odor that drifts across fields where farmers once grew wheat. They do not speak of it openly. To speak is to risk joining the smoke. Karol works and prays and watches his neighbors disappear. The knock on the door at midnight, the truck idling in the street, the family herded out in night clothes, allowed to bring nothing, seen never again. Each morning, he walks to the factory past fresh gaps in the neighborhood. Empty apartments with doors left swinging, abandoned belongings scattered on sidewalks. The mathematics of genocide are relentless. First thousands, then tens of thousands, then numbers that lose all meaning. By the time the war ends, 3 million Polish Jews will have been murdered. 90% of a community that had lived in these lands for 800 years, erased in 4 years. Karol's childhood friends are among them. The boys who played goalkeeper against him in the Wadowice Square, the families who shared Friday evening meals, the merchants who sold his mother bread, gone, all gone, into the chimneys, into the smoke, into the silence. But Karol cannot grieve openly. He cannot resist with weapons. What he can do is study in secret. The Nazis have declared that Poland will have no educated class. Universities are closed. Teaching is forbidden. Priests are arrested and shot. The punishment for underground education is death. And yet, beneath the surface of occupied Kraków, an extraordinary network of resistance takes shape. The Jagiellonian University continues in secret. Its professors meeting with students in basements and backrooms, transmitting knowledge like a sacred flame. Karol joins both the underground university and an illegal seminary organized by Archbishop Adam Sapieha. Sapieha, a man of aristocratic bearing and iron will, recognizes something in the young factory worker. He invites him into a conspiracy of faith. The seminary exists in fragments, scattered across safe houses and rectories. Students meet in groups of 2 or 3, never more. They study by candlelight in rooms with blackout curtains. They memorize texts because books are dangerous. They ordain themselves to silence, to secrecy, to faith maintained at the price of potential martyrdom. Karol lives in the basement of the Archbishop's residence, emerging for factory shifts, returning to his hidden studies. He sleeps on stone floors. He eats what can be scrounged. He reads Thomas Aquinas and St. John of the Cross while above him. The Gestapo hunts for exactly such men. The psychological weight is almost unbearable. Any day could bring discovery. Any night could end in arrest. The Nazis have already executed thousands of Polish priests. Karol knows that his choice to study theology is also a choice to accept potential execution. Yet he continues. Something in him has moved beyond fear. The man who lost everything has discovered that there is something that cannot be taken, not by armies, not by occupation, not by death itself. He calls it faith. Others might call it the human spirit refined by fire. Whatever its name, it will carry him through the last terrible years of the war, and into a future that neither he nor his tormentors can possibly imagine. January 1945. The Red Army approaches Crack W, and the Germans begin their retreat. After 5 years, 5 months, and 6 days of occupation, Poland is about to change masters rather than achieve freedom. But in that moment, liberation is liberation. The Wehrmacht flees. The Gestapo abandons its headquarters. The camps are emptied of their guards, though not of their horrors. Soviet soldiers enter Krakow to find a city that has survived. Barely. Karol Wojtyła emerges from hiding into a world transformed beyond recognition. The war in Europe staggers toward its end. Hitler dies in his bunker. Germany surrenders. The chimneys of Auschwitz fall silent at last. Their work complete. 3 million Polish Jews are dead. 6 million Poles in total. Karol walks through streets he has known since childhood and sees ghosts everywhere. The empty storefronts of Jewish merchants. The burned shells of synagogues. The faces of friends who will never return. He is 25 years old, and he has aged a lifetime, but he has also been transformed. The boy who dreamed of theater has become a man who has lived tragedy beyond any playwright's imagination. The young student who loved poetry has discovered that some truths cannot be captured in verse. The orphan who lost his family has found a larger family in the church, and a father who cannot be taken by death. The seminary emerges from hiding, and Karol completes his studies openly for the first time. The church in Poland faces a new challenge now. Stalin's shadow falls across Eastern Europe, and a different form of oppression begins. Religious faith will once again become an act of resistance. On November 1st, 1946, the Feast of All Saints, Karol Wojtyła lies prostrate on the stone floor of the Archbishop's private chapel. The ancient ritual of ordination unfolds around him. Archbishop Sapia, the man who hid him and trained him and believed in him, lays hands upon his head. The words are spoken in Latin, unchanged for centuries. And a factory worker, a slave laborer, a survivor of hell, rises as a priest. Consider what this moment means. A man who has been worker number 773, who has carried limestone until his hands bled and chemicals until his lungs burned, who has watched his people march to extermination, who has lost everyone he ever loved. This man now stands before the altar, authorized to consecrate bread and wine into what his faith teaches is the body and blood of Christ. He has been forged in suffering, tempered by loss, polished by endurance. The next day, November 2nd, All Souls' Day, Father Karol Wojtyła celebrates his first Mass. He chooses to offer it in the crypt of WWII Cathedral, among the tombs of Polish kings. And he offers it for the souls of his dead, for his mother, for his brother, for his father, for his father, for his friends, for the millions. Rising from the crypt into the gray Polish morning, the young priest faces a future he cannot see. He does not know that he will become a professor, a bishop, a cardinal. He does not know that in 1978 he will be elected pope, the first non-Italian in 455 years, the first Pole ever. He does not know that he will return to his homeland and tell 100 million people to be not afraid, and that those words will help bring down an empire. He knows only that he has survived, that faith has carried him through fire, that suffering has meaning, even when that meaning is invisible, that love is stronger than death. The clock of Wadowice begins to tick again, measuring out new hours in a new world. But the lessons learned in the white hell of the Quarry, in the shadow of Auschwitz, in the basement seminary where faith was treason, those lessons are written now in the soul of a man who will one day write them across history. Karol Wojtyła walks into the morning. Behind him lie the ashes of the old world. Before him lies a future that will shake nations, and within him burns a flame that no darkness could extinguish. This is how saints are made, not in comfort, but in fire, not in safety, but in sacrifice, not in certainty, but in faith maintained against all evidence, all logic, all despair. The boy from Wadowice has become something more than a man. He has become a witness, and his testimony has only just begun. In the years to come, the world will know him as Pope John Paul II. They will see the white cassock, the papal apartments, The masses of millions in St. Peter's Square, they will witness his confrontation with communism, his embrace of youth, his journeys to every corner of the earth. But those who look closely will see something else in his eyes. They will see Wadowice. They will see the quarry dust. They will see the empty windows of vanished neighbors. They will see a man who knows exactly what darkness looks like, because he has lived inside it. And they will understand why, when he spoke of hope and forgiveness and the unconquerable dignity of the human person, he spoke not as a theorist, but as a witness. The clock continues. The pendulum swings, and the story of a boy who became a pope, who was forged in the furnace of the 20th century's worst horrors. That story echoes still, in every prayer spoken in secret, in every act of faith maintained against tyranny, in every human heart that refuses to surrender to despair. He is still with us, the witness from Wadowice, reminding us what we are capable of surviving and what we are called to become.